That's a classic example, actually, with the Hurricanes. You know, if the Hurricanes have got the ball and they win possession, they'll win the game. Holland, I think he's been absolutely outstanding. He's stepped up big time from what he was last year.
Is that Vern's fault? I mean, again, you got to come back, as you said right at the start, buck stops with the coach, right?
Yeah, but you've got the same coach that did so well last year.
Exactly
so
right.
That wasn't a fluke. If you perform above your expectations, there's a reason for that. That means that the group is united.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Murray Mexted, All Black icon, number 8 for our national team. Played well over 70 games for the All Blacks and didn't take that jersey off till he decided enough was enough. Joins us again as we talk Super Rugby, and the All Blacks season is not so far away now. A lot of contenders for various positions. Mex, how did you enjoy it on the weekend? How did you enjoy the code?
Well, I watched it with enthusiasm, actually, because I've had a theory about certain teams, as you well know. Mm-hmm. And one of my theories was that the Crusaders aren't back. Now, everyone's sort of suggesting they're back in town big time, but they're doing well. I mean, I'm not criticising them at all. I'm saying they're not like they were. And I think the weekend we saw, you know, they're one of the top 2 teams and the Highlanders are one of the bottom 2 teams. And there was nothing in that game at all. Nothing in it. Either team could have won. So it's good that we've got a good even competition, I will say that. So I don't think the Crusaders are at their best yet. Chiefs, I think, were absolutely unbelievable, weren't they? Crazy. I mean, everything clicked for them. And I think that Clayton McMillan's done a great job. And when you announce that you're leaving and going offshore, it's very hard for a coach to keep his team. But he's managed to retain that squad as a group, a united group. It doesn't matter what players he fits in and out. They seem to succeed together, you know, and they're building stages and stuff like that, but it's commendable, there's no doubt about it.
Okay, just before you go on, I just want to stop there and ask you there. What does that say about him as a man and the influence he has on those players, or what those players think of him? You know, you've played in that position as your coach. When your coach says he's leaving, but you are still prepared to play like that and give everything for him.
Well, it says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, they're obviously a tight bunch together and they're a happy team. I think you can tell a team that's a happy team.
How?
You know, well, just the way they perform. I mean, if you perform above your expectations, there's a reason for that. That means the group is united. You know, and the contrary is true too. If you perform below your capacity, perhaps, of what people perceive your capacity to be, and an example of that is the Waratahs, then something's not quite right there. I don't know what it is.
But you can't blame the coach for that, though, can you? And it's easy for us on this side of the microphone and the media. The first guy that gets kicked, look at what happened with Rob Penny last year, for example, okay? I mean, straight away everyone was on his back as though it's his fault. Can you blame the coach entirely for, say, what New South Wales have gone through?
No, I don't think you can blame the coach entirely, but the buck stops with the coach, unfortunately,
that's fair.
Marty.
Yep.
It's up to him to make the changes that he thinks are necessary for his team to do better. And I'll give you an example of that. I think that Jamie Joseph became frustrated down south with the Highlanders, and probably as far as selection-wise, they probably had the weaker pool of the New Zealand franchises anyway. And he wanted to do something with them. So he's now had a year with them, and he knows what players in that squad are going to do it and what players aren't. And I would say we'll see a significant difference. If he remains, we'll see a significant difference with the Highlanders next year. So I get back to that same thing I've been saying for years. A good team will always beat a team of good players, you know. And I reckon that, that Highlanders team is actually quite a good team.
Good young team.
They haven't quite struck it yet, and they're sitting on the bottom of the table. But I don't think they're a bottom of the table team, if you know what I mean.
Well, Mex, they've lost 7 games by 7 points or less. And you can look at that in a couple of ways. You can say, hey, well, is it the coach? Is it his fault? Recruitment-wise, we know that they struggle to get players down there. They're also a young team. And Jamie said to us right at the start of the season that they lack big match experience. And he was hoping that this year that they would get enough to be better next year. But again, it's professional sport, mate. Do you have that time and that luxury?
Yeah, well, no, you often get a boot in the pants before you actually find the solution, and sometimes the solution's not so hard. But I did hear this morning on the radio that two of his better players have signed for another few years with the Highlanders. Now, that's a pretty good sign. Tavatavanawai, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, that's Tavatavanawai. Yep, that's right. And also Fabian Holland was the other one, wasn't he? So there are two good signings.
Yeah, and he was. Sure. Yeah. And Holland, in fact, Holland is a big mover, I think. Tavatavanawai played well last year, and he's obviously got some leadership skills as well. Otherwise, Jamie wouldn't have backed him, and now they've signed him on, and he's making a big difference in the midfield. I mean, he started as a winger, didn't he? But he's now playing as a midfield back. So there's a significant difference there. And I think that, Holland, well, I think he's been absolutely outstanding. He's stepped up big time from what he was last year. I mean, he's now competing. He's now saying to everybody, hey, I'm not a boy from out of town who's come here to learn about rugby. I've learned about rugby, and I can match it with the best of you.
Yep.
That's what he's actually saying to me when I watch him on TV.
Yeah, I think he's got higher honours coming, that guy. Yeah.
I've been screaming every time I listen to these analysts. I shake my head. Especially when you've got wingers and fullbacks picking loose forwards.
You don't like it.
Front row forwards.
Max,
I shake my head.
I know, but maybe that's because you are a little old school on that. I mean, look, these guys watch a hell of a lot of rugby, I know. And look, Jeff and Mills watch an awful lot, okay?
Yeah. Oh, they do.
Back in your day, mate, the winger was there to get the ball at the end and tidy the changing room after you guys had finished with it, right? It's kind of changed a little bit.
But everyone forgets you've got to have the ball.
Yeah, true.
It's pretty bloody simple, but people forget it. You've got to have the ball. Who's going to win you the ball?
Well, those up front are winning the ball, aren't they? So, yeah.
Most of the time, yes. I mean, there's a lot of things the way you play the game affects who holds possession, how long you hold the ball for. I mean, that's a classic example, actually, with the Hurricanes. If the Hurricanes have got the ball and they win possession, they'll win the game. Doesn't matter who they're playing. They'll win the game because they've got strike power from everywhere, and they seem to have this sort of rhythm every now and again. It's not all the time. It's not consistent. No. And that's one of their issues at the moment, I think, is consistency. But it's a marvellous competition, I will say. And I wonder about this competition. I've heard, whispers about maybe somebody adding to this Pacifica. And I think the option of having an American team, which I've mentioned on your program for years now, I think there needs to be more to this Pacifica. And they are on the Pacific, aren't they?
Yeah, well, so's Japan. So's Japan.
The west side of
whether we get them back involved again. Remember, having Argentina involved at one stage there as well. So, this is it. We don't have the Africans anymore, and that's a real shame. So, there's been a lot of talk about that, about looking ahead to Japan and going, can we get those club sides, not a cobbled together side, can we get those club sides with the ex-All Blacks coming back and playing here, which the crowds would love, obviously. But yeah, America's another option. The problem they had, though, Mex, was that, remember, Super 12 was brilliant, Super 14, then it was 15, and before you know it, it just ballooned into this competition that was unwieldy and didn't work. So hopefully they've learned something from that aspect if they do start increasing it.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on whether we want to compete on the world stage or whether we want to provide a competition that everybody enjoys down under. And there's two different things there. At the moment, the way we're playing the game, it's a fabulous spectacle to watch. And some of those games on the weekends were just sensational, absolutely bloody marvellous. I enjoyed them thoroughly, and I couldn't help but think, are they going to be able to play like this when they play against France and when they play against South Africa and when they play against England? No, they're not going to be able to play like that.
Well, you won't play the same style of game, will you? No.
No, they're going to have to change the game completely. Otherwise, the referees will referee them off the field and they won't win any of the games. If they play like they're playing in Super Rugby, and it becomes a bit habitual, you just get used to firing it because there's a supporting player. Well, you hope there's a supporting player. But when you're playing at a higher level, some of those 50-50 passes don't come off. A lot more are intercepted. And, and the time is, you've got less time. As the standard of rugby gets high, you have less time to make decisions, to do things, to act, to pull off moves. To adjust now to, is it tri-series rugby and even against international teams with referees from the Northern Hemisphere is going to be hard. And I'm sure that Rosa Robertson's aware of that. So that's one thing that does worry me. But we've got to look at our own competition here in the Pacific Ocean. It's terrible losing the South African teams. I think that's tragic for the level of the game globally. I think that we lose something down under when the South Africans play in the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh, hell yes.
And the Northern Hemisphere gain something. So they gain a stronger competition because you've got to beat those African sides. And so the average player gets better. And the same thing in reverse in New Zealand. So I don't think we can carry on with the present format. I think we need to introduce something else from the Pacific Ocean. Now, whether that's Argentina, well, Argentina's not on the Pacific.
No, it's an awkward one. Yeah, then you've got another time zone involved. Yeah, I know it is. That was awkward. But I liked having them in the competition, the Jaguares. So there's something about, I don't know, you love Argentina. I know that you love Argentina. I've never been there, but there's something about it, isn't there? They look at their rugby differently. They eat their steaks differently. You've got to climb a mountain to get to that plate. There's just something about the way they play, and they bring an exoticness to it. I don't know. That's what international rugby is, isn't it?
Well, they're fun.
Yeah, there you go. In a word, yeah.
And their women are beautiful, and that helps.
How does that help in a rugby sense? It helps in every sense,
It doesn't help the rugby, but it's really enjoyable.
Of course
it's an enjoyable environment. I find that South American environment really enjoyable. It's fun. It's fun. It's wild. It's a little bit off Main Street, and so I think they definitely added something. I've been talking for years about having a team based in Hawaii, United States team based in Hawaii, because I think that's a very, very straightforward message. Because if they put a franchise together that played out of that NFL base, which is redundant up there, by the way.
Yeah, they don't know. Yeah.
Aloha Stadium, it's called, and it's a facility that could house. It's just redundant. It's just sitting there, and it was an NFL base about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm not sure now, and it would be a fantastic place to base an American team. And it's only sort of 9 hours flight from here. It's sort of closer than Tokyo in many respects. So, it'll be a good idea. But anyway, that's another story, Marty. I'm digressing.
Yeah, okay, so you've talked about the Crusaders, you've talked about the Highlanders, you've talked about the Chiefs. So now we've got the Hurricanes to think about, and we've got the Blues to think about as well. The Hurricanes' trajectory at the moment, ever since they went to the Brumbies and had to win, well, they went to the Force and drew that game to start with. Then they had to beat the Brumbies. Then they had to beat the Chiefs. Then going away and beating the Reds. Are you happy with the trajectory of this team, who just seem to be peaking at exactly the right time?
This is fun, isn't it?
I'm loving it.
This is fun watching this, because it really is a huge challenge. And I think they found themselves looking at a bloody big problem. They had to go to Canberra and beat the Brumbies.
And they did it well. They did it well, mate.
Now, I don't know when the last time a team went there and won. I mean, there's not too many New Zealand teams that beat the Brumbies in Canberra. I can't quite remember. I should be able to, but I can't. So they did really well, and they've done well since. Subsequently, I think beating the Reds, because I think the Reds is probably one of the happiest teams in the Australian competition anyway. They seem to be really united, and they seem to play above themselves as a team, and they're hard to beat when they're playing at home. So I think they've done well. Yes, I think the Hurricanes are definitely on that trajectory.
Yeah, so what about?
It's good to see, because I support the Hurricanes, of course, naturally.
What about, so there we've also got this logjam now for 6, 7 and 8. And now Moana, and this is what I wanted to ask you and finish on. So their headspace after winning 3 games in a row, they had a bye. They get absolutely towelled by the Chiefs. They've still got a chance. They've got to go to the Hurricanes and win. Then you've got the Blues hosting New South Wales. And New South Wales, as much as I've written them off, won a game with a fingernail in Perth against the Force, which puts them in a position, crazy as it is, that they could go to Eden Park and end up claiming that 6th spot. So there are 3 teams all with massive games or massive jeopardy on those games coming this weekend. How do you see that unfolding?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a bit complicated, so let me simplify. the top three teams are miles ahead.
Yeah, they're already done.
The top three teams.
Yep, they're done.
So we're only picking 6. Mm-hmm. So then you really got 4 and 5,
and they're done.
4 and 5, the Hurricanes and the Reds, aren't they?
Yep.
And one's got more firepower than the other. I mean, I think that the Hurricanes can score a try from anywhere at any time. How many times did they look like they were going to score a try compared to their opposition each time you play? Each time they play, they look like they're creating more opportunity. And most of the time in latter weeks anyway, they pull it off. So, I think that those two teams are going through. So that's 5. So you're only looking about at one other team. And so you're going to say, okay, is it going to be the Blues? Is it going to be the Blues?
I think it is
going to be Moana Pacifica.
Yeah.
And if you look at who they're playing,
yep,
the Hurricanes are on the rise. Moana are sort of had a bad week. They'll bounce back. I'm sure they will. Mm-hmm. There'll be some fireworks at training there, I'd say.
You'd think
so. That score.
Yep.
But there's a morale factor, and there's a unity factor now because they got such a bloody tonking, So I'd pick the Hurricanes to win that game. So therefore, the Blues have probably got a hell of a good chance of going through, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. And look, and they play first. They play in the afternoon. So, Moana will know what to do. They have to do after that game. But, this is a Blues side who've been unconvincing all year. Now, ordinarily, if I'm looking at that fixture mix, I'd be saying Blues at home to New South Wales. That's a gimme at Eden Park. It has to be. But now that New South Wales give themselves a chance, both of these teams are sitting there going, we've had wretched seasons. And they won't be great seasons, but they're going to be a hell of a lot better if we make the playoffs and at least have that to show at the end of the year. So it all adds up for a hell of a contest, I reckon, at Eden Park. And I don't think New South Wales are right out of it. I really don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Well, I reckon it's been a great competition because if you're saying that means any team can beat any team every week.
Almost.
We don't know, really.
Yeah, we don't know.
And the TAB don't know either. You can tell by their odds half the time that they haven't got a clue who's going to win the game.
Been a great comp. I mean, that's the thing. Right from the first week, we've been talking about it. And Super Rugby needed this year. It really did. And it's been a happy comp. And I say that, mate, in that it's been great to watch every week. Like every week, I've got a smile on my face while I'm watching games and that. I've enjoyed it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the referees have come to the party
Good
too.
On you. Yep.
They're adding to the whole performance factor. It's an exhibition, isn't it, of rugby? And you can see which teams have got the skills and which teams haven't. But still that team factor has a great part to play in who wins the game. Mm-hmm. Even though the skill level might be slightly different and one team might be stronger than the other individually, selectively as a group, it's the thing that comes through. And I think when you look at those top teams, see, that's actually another point. The Blues, they won under the same coach last year, didn't they?
Exactly right.
They looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're scrambling for the bottom position to qualify for the next.
Is that Vern's fault? I mean, again, you got to come back, as you said right at the start, buck stops with the coach, right?
Yeah, but you've got the same coach that did so well last year.
Exactly
so
right.
That wasn't a fluke. So, I'd pick them to have a win this week, and they may surprise yet in the second round. They may surprise. We will see.
We will see.
DSPN.